The way we connect with our dogs, it feels so fundamental, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
it's always been there. And well, it turns out it pretty much has.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving deep into this bond, this, enduring connection between humans and dogs.
Mm,
We've got some really interesting material. First, we'll explore the World History Encyclopedia, see how ancient cultures saw dogs.
right.
Then we'll shift gears a bit. 2 scientific studies looking at our modern relationships and what the science is actually uncovering.
Yeah, the contemporary angle.
Exactly. So our goal today is really to understand that history, the significance back then, how we relate to them now, and what science tells us about just how deep and, well, complex this whole relationship really is.
Sounds great.
Okay, let's unpack this.
It's truly amazing, isn't it, how long dogs have been, well, woven into human history.
Hmm.
The World History Encyclopedia, it shows this really consistent presence across so many ancient cultures.
Not just a flash in the pan.
No, exactly. They were constants and generally seen very positively. Not just pets, but faithful companions, hunters, guardians.
Spiritual guides, even.
Yes, and, members of the family, they were really integrated.
Right. I mean, we're talking thousands of years back. The encyclopedia mentions the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
That's, what, 2150 to 1400 BCE?
That far back, yeah.
And you've got the goddess Inanna, or Ishtar, traveling with 7 hunting dogs, prized ones, on leashes.
On leashes, which is fascinating in itself.
It is, because, we often think ancient Egypt for the first dog collars, but the encyclopedia suggests maybe Sumer, even earlier.
That really makes you think, doesn't it, about the level of, control, maybe training in those very early relationships?
Yeah, leashes imply management, right?
Exactly. And looking closer at Mesopotamia, the encyclopedia notes the Sumerian word urgi and Semitic kalbu.
Okay.
And their main job seems to have been protection, herds and homes.
Ah.
And while they might have been around towns, the understanding is these dogs, well, they usually belong to someone specific. They were cared for.
So they had a place, not just wandering around, but it wasn't all cuddles and companionship, was it?
No, definitely not. The encyclopedia mentions they also acted as carrion eaters in villages.
The cleanup crew.
Sort of, yeah. Like hyenas or jackals in some places. A practical role.
And it mentions types of dogs, too.
It does. It points to likely 2 main types. These bigger, greyhoundish dogs for hunting.
Sleek ones.
Yeah. And then these really strong dogs, maybe like, early Danes or Mastiffs.
Right.
In the ancient Orient, these big guys were good for herding, protection, especially against smaller wolves. It notes they could tell different types apart, though we can't be totally sure what those types looked like, obviously.
And their role went beyond just the practical, didn't it? You mentioned the divine connection.
Yes, that's a really interesting point in the encyclopedia. Dogs often seen as companions to gods of healing, of therapeutics.
So not just useful tools. They had symbolic weight.
Deeply integrated into belief systems, it seems, which probably explains why, while vicious dog might pop up, dog itself wasn't really used as an insult, hints at a generally positive cultural view.
Okay, let's jump forward a bit. Ancient Persian Zoroastrian beliefs. This sounds striking.
Oh, it really is. They really stressed caring for dogs, almost like humans.
So way beyond just a working animal.
Absolutely. The encyclopedia details how treating dogs, your actions towards them, actually factored into your afterlife judgment at the Chinvat Bridge.
Seriously. Your soul's journey depended partly on how you treated your dog.
That's the idea. It speaks volumes about the moral framework, doesn't it? How fundamental that respect was.
So maybe not forgetting a walk, but the principle.
Exactly. And the consequences for mistreatment? Pretty severe. Killing a dog, according to these beliefs, guaranteed you a spot in the House of Lies, their version of hell.
That really underlines the value placed on them. Quite a contrast to some other historical views of animals.
Definitely.
Okay, so from these ancient roots, this deep history of companionship, even spiritual weight, let's shift to today, our modern understanding. That first scientific paper looks right at this, right? The human-dog bond.
It does, yeah. It starts with some formal definitions of the human-animal bond, HAB they call it, from, vet and animal study groups.
Right.
Purdue University says it's a dynamic relationship. Each influences the psychological and physiological state of the other.
Okay, mutual influence.
Yeah. And the AVMA calls it mutually beneficial and dynamic, influenced by behaviors essential to the health and well-being of both.
So good for both parties.
Ideally. And the Society for Companion Animal Studies keeps it simpler. A close relationship between people and animals.
Okay, so these are ways to frame what lots of us just, well, feel. But how do researchers actually measure this bond? Specifically with dogs, the HDB.
That's a key point the study gets into. A lot of the current methods, they focus mostly on the human side, asking owners about their feelings, what they see.
Makes sense. That's what you can easily ask.
Right. But the researchers highlight a big limitation. You're only getting half the story. This can lead to anthropocentric bias.
Projecting our stuff onto them.
Basically, yeah. Assuming our interpretations of their behavior are the full picture.
Like thinking your dog looks guilty, but maybe they're just reacting to your tone or something else entirely. So given that limitation, what was this study trying to achieve?
Two main things, really. First, look at how well existing tools do measure the HDB, and crucially, how well they try to capture the dog side of things.
Okay.
Their initial work suggested there's not much focus on the dog's perspective in these tools. So the second goal was to find new themes based on how dogs seem to invest in the relationship to maybe build better assessment tools down the line.
Right. Trying to get beyond just human feelings about the dog.
Yeah.
How did they try to get at that dog perspective?
They did these in-depth interviews, talked to a diverse group of dog owners.
Qualitative stuff.
Exactly. To get rich detail about how owners see their dog's behaviors as relating to the bond. And important note, they got ethical approval from the Dogs Trust Ethical Review Board for this.
Good. Okay, so what came out, one big theme, was affirmation of HDB from the dog. Let's dig into that. What does that mean? What were owners seeing?
This was all about how owners read their dog's responses to them. Things like excited greetings when they got home.
The happy dance at the door.
Yeah, or, coming when called recall.
Yeah.
Choosing to stay close by proximity, showing affection. These generally made owners feel good about the bond.
Sure.
But, and this is key, the researchers point out these behaviors can have lots of reasons besides just the bond.
Right, like training.
Training, yeah. How they were trained, their mood at the time, their general personality, comfort, or even just learned associations like greeting walkies.
Yeah, my dog gets very excited when I get home, but I suspect dinner time approaching has something to do with it too. We like to think it's just pure love, though. The paper had a quote illustrating this, didn't it?
It did, yeah. An owner said, well, I don't think it is any one behavior. I like it when he comes when I tell him to. He likes to play. I can see he's happy because he wags his tail. And he's happiest of all when I give him food. So it's all aspects, really. It shows how owners kind of bundle different things together.
A holistic view. And it seems like not seeing certain behaviors could really affect owners emotionally, like bad recall.
Yes, especially in public. That could lead to frustration, even feeling judged by others.
The social pressure aspect.
Exactly. It shows how our interactions with our dogs don't happen in a vacuum. Human social norms play a part.
And then there was this idea of owners attributing very human-like qualities, comparing it to a mom-child relationship, talking about dogs getting angry or stroppy. Which sounds like anthropomorphism, but maybe it's also a way to try to understand them.
Absolutely. Giving them that kind of agency, those emotions, can help owners make sense of things, feel empathy. The paper mentions an owner who felt their dog got cross if they went somewhere the dog didn't like and would strop about it afterwards.
Huh. A stroppy dog.
It suggests a belief in complex emotions, intentional expression from the dog's side.
But it wasn't just about projecting human stuff, was it? The study also found owners who seemed to genuinely respect their dog's preferences, their choices.
That's a really important distinction. Not just seeing a furry human, but an individual with likes and dislikes. Recognizing their agency.
Right.
One person talked about their dog giving the side eye after a bad experience and how long it took to rebuild trust. That really brings home the dog's perspective, their memory of interactions.
A powerful reminder, yeah. It's a two-way street. Our actions matter to their feelings.
Rare.
The paper also mentioned the Ainsworth strain situation test, used with dogs.
That's right, yeah. Adapted from child psychology to look at attachment styles in dogs, observing how they react to separation and reunion with their owners.
Fascinating. And physiologically.
They mentioned that 2008 study by Nagasawa found higher oxytocin, the bonding hormone, in owners just from their dogs gazing at them.
Wow, just the gaze.
Yeah, a real biological marker of that connection.
So, current assessment tools, they do ask about things like, my dog gets excited when I come home.
They do.
But the caution is, don't automatically jump to purely human-like reasons for it.
Exactly. As we said, similar behaviors can stem from excitement, sure, but also fear, anxiety, or just learned responses like stay close, get treats. So understanding the dog's actual experience needs more nuance.
Okay, got it. So ancient history, modern perceptions. Let's turn to that second scientific paper. This one digs into the science of the interactions themselves, right? Comparative behavior, cognition.
Yeah, this paper takes a broader scientific lens, starts right at the beginning. Domestication. Reminds us dogs came from prehistoric wolves, Eurasia, 15,000 to 30,000 years ago.
An incredible time frame.
And what's really mind-blowing is dogs were the first species we domesticated. Before farming, before settled life.
That changes how you think about it. So why wolves? Theories of domestication.
Well, there's this sort of exploitation idea from Cluttenbrock humans basically taking control.
Top down.
Yeah. But there's also a more mutualistic view from Zatter, suggesting both sides benefited right from the start.
Which kind of feels more likely for such a lasting relationship. So advantages for the wolves/early dogs.
Probably reliable food near humans, maybe protection from bigger predators.
Okay. And for humans, what was the initial payoff?
The paper suggests things like, well, the wolf's sharp senses, maybe hunting help, cleaning up waste, keeping vermin down, possibly even meat, warmth, or later, transport help.
Practical beginnings, even for a deep bond. And how it started. Humans grabbing pups, or wolves approaching us.
Those are the two main scenarios. The human-led idea versus self-domestication, where less fearful wolves hung around. Current thinking. Probably a mix of both.
A co-evolutionary dance.
Kind of, yeah. Wolves suited to being near humans thrived, and humans encouraged those traits.
And fast forward to now. The benefits of having dogs are pretty clear, aren't they?
Oh, definitely. The paper runs through them. Big pluses for physical and mental health, social support. Dog owners tend to be more active. There's links to lower long-term death risk, maybe cardiovascular benefits. Veterans with PTSD show improvement with service dogs. Even just petting a dog lowers stress hormones in students.
Wow.
And dog therapy helps mood and cognition in long-term care residents.
It's a huge range. Physiological, psychological. The paper even mentions the money we spend. Germany, 4.5 billion euros a year.
Yeah, huge investment. But it seems the benefits likely outweigh those costs for many people.
Okay, so this long history together must have shaped how we, well, communicate. What does the science say about their cognitive skills with us?
Right, this is where it gets really fascinating. Studies on cognition, object choice tasks, finding a hidden reward, and gaze following. Dogs can follow our gaze, but it often seems context-dependent. Needs those ostensive cues.
Like pointing and making eye contact, a clear signal.
Exactly. Not just automatically looking where we look and understanding what we can see. They're perspective-taking.
How does that stack up?
Research suggests they might rely more on their own viewpoint. Egocentric. That tunnel experiment you mentioned.
Right. If I can't see you, you can't see me.
Sort of like that, yeah. Different from chimps, but they did prefer a silent approach to forbidden food if a human was there but not looking.
So they have some sense of our attention state.
Exactly. They learn what gets noticed. But understanding what a human saw just before, like with hidden toys, the study found they didn't seem to differentiate based on the human's prior knowledge.
So tuned into our present focus, maybe less our recent visual history. Interesting. But they can spot deception.
Yes. An object choice task showed they could tell if a human was misleadingly pointing to an empty spot. They'd choose the other one or just refuse to choose.
Clever. Picking up on reliability cues.
It seems that way. So the science isn't asking, do they have theory of mind, like a yes-no question anymore? It's more about which specific mental states they understand and how well.
Right. A more nuanced approach.
And their focus on our eyes, our eye contact. That's likely a key adaptation to living with us, a big part of their communication toolkit.
Which leads to that showing behavior, when your dog tries to lead you somewhere.
Yes. Studies show they use gaze alternation, looking between the thing and the owner.
Back and forth, yeah.
And vocalizing, to show us something. And the setup matters. Gaze alternation is more common if the thing is far away.
Makes sense. More effort needed to direct attention from afar. And our behavior influences them.
Yes, how the owner acts can change how much effort the dog puts in, especially for distant targets. But interestingly, there wasn't strong proof that a pair's long-term communication history made a big difference in these specific tasks.
That's surprising. You'd think practice would make perfect. And concealing information.
Ah, yes. Another experiment suggested dogs might try to conceal sound, be quieter when sneaking food, but not necessarily visual information. Again, subtle differences in how they manage our awareness.
Okay, communication is complex. What about pro-social stuff? Helping behavior. Do they get our intentions?
Well, pro-social acts informing, helping, sharing need cognition and motivation. Dogs are great learners, obviously, responding to commands, but do they grasp why we might need help? Some early studies suggest dogs might not choose to give food to another dog even if it costs them nothing.
Really? So maybe helpful actions are more learned responses than pure altruism or understanding need.
It raises questions, definitely, and comparing cooperation, wolves versus dogs.
Did the wolves win?
Not consistently, no. Cooperation seemed to depend more on the species involved, rank, history of sharing food. It's complex, not just about wild versus domestic.
Gotcha. Okay, object permanence and memory. Hiding treats. Do they know it still exists?
Experiments suggest yes. They seem to represent hidden objects mentally. They hesitate if something unexpected happens, showing they had an expectation.
Right.
And memory-wise, family dogs learned fetching just as well as working dogs over time. But who asked them mattered. Familiarity influenced hesitation and speed.
Makes sense. More comfortable with people they know. Okay, last cognitive bits. Metacognition and information seeking. Sounds fancy. Metacognition. Knowing what you know.
Exactly. Thinking about thinking.
Yeah.
And information seeking is about whether they actively look for more info when needed. Like for a hidden reward they didn't see hidden.
The V-Fence experiment.
Right. Dogs checked more when they hadn't seen the reward hidden, and they did better when they checked. Interestingly, food versus toy reward made a difference.
Why would toys work better?
Couple of ideas. Maybe toys are easier to spot visually. Maybe dogs are just more motivated for toys. Or maybe they use different senses, smell for food, sight for toys, and vision allows for more flexible searching. But the paper notes findings aren't totally consistent across studies here. Maybe dogs struggle sometimes to not just go for the reward, even if they know they need more info.
The lure of the treat. Okay, finally, mimicry. Does walking like your dog make them like you more?
Well, studies tried that. Unfamiliar humans mimicking a dog's walking. Did the dogs pay more attention or stay closer? Didn't find a significant effect? Maybe methodological issues? Perhaps dogs just don't register walking together as meaningful mimicry?
Right, our interpretation might not match their perception. Okay, wow, lots of science there. Let's loop back to that first paper. Anthropomorphism and social support in owners.
Right. This looked at the idea that people might humanize their dogs more if they lack human social connections.
Filling a gap, maybe?
Possibly. But it also asked how this tendency, combined with their actual level of human support, relates to their health.
The hypothesis being low human support plus high anthropomorphism may be poorer health because they're putting too much emotional weight on the dog.
That was the idea. And for people with good human support, maybe anthropomorphism wouldn't impact their well-being as much because they have other outlets.
So how they test this?
Surveyed Canadian dog owners, measured perceived social support, how much they anthropomorphize their dogs, and health indicators, doctor visits, meds, stress, depression.
And the findings.
It was complex. For owners with low human support, high anthropomorphism was linked to more depression, more doctor visits, more medication use.
Okay, so that seems to fit the hypothesis.
Yeah. Suggests relying heavily on the dog when human support is low might correlate with negative health outcomes.
But what about the high support group? Did anthropomorphism not matter?
This was surprising. Even among those with high human support, high anthropomorphism was still linked to more stress and depression.
Really? So even if your human social life is good, really humanizing your dog might still connect to poorer psychological well-being.
That's what this study suggests. Definitely more nuanced than you might first think. The researchers suggest, future work could look at cat owners or the specific type of attachment people have, not just anthropomorphism level.
Lots more to untangle there.
Yeah.
And that second paper also pointed to future research directions, right?
It did. 3 main areas. Digging deeper into domestication origins, understanding the process better, and looking at the long-term outcomes for both species.
And specifically, more research on dog empathy.
Yeah.
Beyond just catching emotions.
Yes, going beyond that emotional contagion idea. Can they truly understand and share our feelings more complexly? That's a big open question. Gets right to the heart of the connection.
And the cultural aspect, too. Most research is on weird societies.
Western, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic.
Yeah.
The vast majority of dogs globally aren't primarily companion animals in the Western sense.
Right.
So we need to know, do dogs in other cultures show similar cognitive skills, similar social leanings towards humans? How have their different roles shaped things?
It really drives home how much we still have to learn about this ancient, evolving relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, so bringing this deep dive towards a close, key takeaways.
Well, I mean, it's crystal clear. Dogs have been hugely significant for humans for millennia. It's a complex, multi-layered relationship. Modern science is peeling back those layers, showing amazing similarities in social smarts, but also really crucial differences in perception. And maybe critically, how we perceive our dogs, especially tied into our own social needs, seems to genuinely affect our own well-being.
So here's a final thought for you listening. As we get smarter about this bond, what ethical responsibilities pop up? Thinking about all the different roles dogs play, different cultural views, even within our own lives. How do we make sure our tendency to, see the human in our dogs actually helps both them and us, rather than maybe hindering things?
It's a really important question to keep asking. And for anyone wanting to explore more, definitely check out that World History Encyclopedia article on ancient dogs and the scientific papers we talked about. Lots more fascinating detail in there.